So this month, under a friend's request, I read V.C. Andrews' Flowers in the Attic. And V.C. Andrews is well known for doing lineage stories. This book and then its follow-ups are all about the same family, continuing on to children and children's children, so I don't see myself reading the rest of this series. I'm going to begrudgingly admit that this is a horror novel. It uses both dread and revulsion as its primary elements, the anticipation of an act and then the recoilation of it, as well as it seeks primarily to instill us with negative emotions. And it does those things well, but at the same time, it didn't work for me. The characters didn't feel like they were being all that threatened, as they were in confinement for 3 years, and they were very comfortable with this, until they started getting poisoned. The mother's character was by far the worst character in the book for me, for not the reasons you're expecting. It's because she was written, in my opinion, very blatantly. I could tell even without being spoiled from the movies that this woman was going to be the ultimate villain, and not the grandmother, as it was in no way subtle. That's my main issue with this, is there was no characters that I actually grabbed onto and could relate to. Another issue I have is the setting is so confined, but it never feels claustrophobic to me. They're trapped in 2 rooms, and it should feel like it's cramped or uncomfortable, but yet they just constantly describe the attic as being open and spacious, and that takes away a lot of the feeling of their confinement for me, which is, I think, a large cornerstone of this book that I'm supposed to get, and I just didn't. Another issue I have is the book's ending, as it doesn't build to anything, but rather just kind of peters out, and really wrecked all of the suspense that had built for me. But Flowers in the Attic's biggest sin is it just left me with remarkably little I wanted to say. There's not much I want to touch on in this book, as it feels that the storyline is very simple, and it doesn't really go anywhere. As while this book does have its good points, and it does teach certain moral lessons, it overly had very little that spoke to me as a reader. I don't feel lessened by this book, but I don't feel like I gained much from reading it. But for November, I'm going to be reading Joyland by Stephen King, and I'm very happy that even though it's been a 2-book break, to be back to Stephen King.